I met my husband on Muzz in 1 month. Here's my story. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hannah El-Gashingi. I'm the co-founder of Muslim Love Coaches, and alongside my husband Ammar, we're on a mission to help 5 million single Muslims find their partners and be in a healing, nourishing, and Allah-centered relationship. Perhaps you've been on Muzz for quite some time now, where you're stuck in this cycle of downloading the app and you're full of hope and inspiration that you'll find the one. You go on it for a couple of months, you meet matches that are unsuccessful, and you start burning out hard. And then you delete the app, and then you start forming the belief perhaps that there are no good men out there. Maybe perhaps the apps don't work. And maybe perhaps you started to believe deep down that marriage isn't written for you. If that's the case, then this video is for you. I was 29, single, and I had never been in a relationship. And to be honest, I had carried so much shame around that. Like, what was wrong with me? Why hadn't I been in a relationship? Am I not beautiful enough? Am I not good enough? Will I ever find my husband? And I started to carry so much pain around that. And I thought that I would get married naturally. I thought, that it would just happen when I least expect it, as people would tell me, that I'd finish school, that I would go into university, and bam, my gorgeous husband would be sitting there in the lecture theatre next to me. We would fall in love, get married, have babies, and then live happily ever after. And it didn't happen that way. Yes, alhamdulillah, I finished school, I went to university. Then friend after friend started getting married around me. I was invited to baby showers. I was invited to big tabs, nikahs, weddings. And yet here I was, still so single with no relationship, no potentials in my life. I would go to these occasions so happy for my friends, but deep down I would ask myself, when is it going to be my turn? Why hasn't it happened for me yet? And then the sting would come when people would come up to me, especially aunties, and said, "Oh, Balik Hannah, when are we going to hear the good news of you?" And that used to carry so much pain for me. Like, thank you for reminding me that I'm still single. Thank you for reminding me that I'm no longer close to being married right now. And I would be so angry. And on the way home from those occasions, I would cry and I would talk to Allah. I'm like, "Ya Allah, I am making dua. I feel like I am doing what I can, but yet why still hasn't it happened for me?" Fast forward, I finished university and alhamdulillah, I poured myself into my career. I loved my job as a high school teacher. I was thriving in it. I loved my students. My students loved me. I was so passionate about helping teenagers and showing up for teenagers because I truly believe teenagers are amazing. I won awards for my teaching, and as I was going through that, I would come home every day, yes, fulfilled for my career, but I would come home feeling empty. Like, I want to share my life with my partner. I have so much love to give and I'm ready to start my own family. I was so ready for that. So every time I would come home, it'd be a reminder that I'm not married yet and I really want to start that part of my life. 2018 happened, and it was the year of unexpected grief. I lost my beautiful mother, Salwa Allah yarhamha, and for me that shook me to my absolute core. I wasn't expecting it, my family wasn't expecting it, and I loved my mum so deeply. I had such a beautiful relationship with her, and so the thought of losing her and actually losing her just shattered my world into pieces. As I was processing my grief, so much pain around marriage would come up as well, like, how am I ever going to leave my dad now? My future husband and kids would never know my mum. And where on earth am I going to find a husband now? It was my mum that was talking to the aunties in the community and whispering, "Hey, do you have someone for Hannah?" Now that was gone. So where was I ever going to find a husband? And so while I was in that grief of processing my mum's loss, I came across the world of life coaching. And honestly, I thought life coaches were wannabe psychologists. It wasn't an accredited profession. It wasn't credible, and that just anyone could call themselves a life coach. But it's not until I actually came across an institute, studied with them for 3 years, yes, 3 years, and got accredited, that it changed my world forever. Through coaching, I learned who Hannah is at her depth, what her vision is for her life, what her values are, what's really important to her, what are the blocks that I unconsciously didn't know I even had, and the tools of communication. I always thought I was an amazing communicator, but it's not until I learned the art of validation, how to ask really powerful questions, how to truly listen to another person, that everything shifted in my relationships, alhamdulillah. that's when I said to Allah, I'm like, Ya Allah, I feel like I'm really ready to find a husband. And I don't want to do it passively, Ya Allah. I want to be active in my search for a husband, because that is tawakkul. Tawakkul isn't just sitting back waiting for it to happen. Tawakkul is taking action. And so for the first time ever, I decided to align those two worlds together. I decided to be active in my search. Previously, I'd be scared because if I was active, then I'd be desperate. And so I unlinked the two together, and I looked at active as being as a high value woman, just like Khadija radiallahu anha was. She was the one that initiated the marriage proposal to the Prophet ﷺ, and yet we still look at her as a high value woman. So why couldn't I do the same? Why couldn't I actively look for my husband and still be a high value woman? And so that's exactly what I did. The first step that I did was I elevated my dua. I got to know who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is through his 99 names, and I fell in love with him. I realized who Allah al-Wakil, al-Fattah, al-Mujib was, and so I elevated my dua. Instead of making dua like I used to for many years, Ya Allah, give me a husband, and my heart truly wasn't in it, and I was questioning whether Allah was even listening to my dua. It shifted to creating this beautiful dua, which I call the busting dua. And this is what I teach my clients, how to create this busting dua where you're so ready for it that you will do everything in your power to make that action happen, inshallah. My busting dua was, Ya Jabbar, choose for me a husband that you love, so that on my wedding day he'll whisper, I love you, Hannah. And honestly, that dua still to this day gives me goosebumps, because when I was making the dua, it was a future moment dua. It was a dua that I could touch and feel and experience, even though it hasn't happened yet. And my mindset was so powerful. As I was making that dua, I was like, Ya Allah, I know with 100% yaqeen that you're going to open this door for me in the most beautiful way. I know you're going to answer my dua. That is the secret formula and secret ingredient in dua. If you're coming to Allah saying, oh, Ya Allah, I don't know if you're going to give this to me, that's not yaqeen. But if you come to Allah with full yaqeen, Ya Allah, I know you're going to give this to me, and you're going to give it to me in the most beautiful way, that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens it for you in the most beautiful way. And so I was making that dua, and then I said to myself, I would even take more action. The second step was I created my vision board. And what that vision board was, it was just a beautiful images to lift up inspiration for me. I created my wedding invitation for my future wedding that hadn't happened yet. Again, to get me so excited that this will happen, inshallah. And then I saw this beautiful image of a man and a woman. He was wearing a grey jumper, and she had her hand around him, and you could see her wedding ring. I don't know why I love that picture so much, but I put it on my vision board and I had it there. And so that was step 2. I had a vision board alongside my dua to lift up my hope and inspiration. Step 3 was, I'm going to take more action, Ya Allah. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to buy my future husband a gift. Yes, that thought gave me so many goosebumps. I was so excited. I was like this little girl inside of me that was bubbling up with excitement when I went to the shops. So I'm like, Ya Allah, I don't know what I'm going to get my husband, but Allah, you guide me to what I should buy my husband. And subhanAllah, the first shop that I stepped into, I went into the men's section, and the first thing that caught my eye, that exact same grey jumper that was on my vision board, because it was top of mind. It was something that I was seeing all the time. And so I went, I'm like, Ya Allah, I'm definitely going to buy this grey jumper. But what on earth, like what size do I buy my husband? Is he big? Is he small? Is he tall? Is he short? What size do I buy my husband? I said to Allah, Ya Allah, you guide me. What size is perfect for my husband? And so I got a size large. I'm like, Ya Allah, I think this is my husband. I was looking at him, I'm like, yeah, that would fit him perfectly, although I didn't actually know who he was or what he looked like. Then I went to the cashier, and as I was buying it, I asked her, so what's the return policy? How many days do I have to return it? She said 30 days. And in my mind, I was like, yeah, Hannah, you got 30 days to find your husband. And so that was so beautiful, because every time I was making the dua, I was now holding that grey jumper as a reminder that this will happen. Inshallah, I will hug my husband while he's wearing that grey jumper. Again, a reminder to lift up my hope and inspiration and yaqeen in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then step 4 was to actually take action to finding my husband. Yes, through coaching, I knew what my values were. I knew what my vision is. I had the tools. And that's very, very important. I didn't just go blindly into I just want to find my husband. I had the tools to support me to do so. But where do I find this man that I'm looking for? SubhanAllah, I went out with a friend. My best friend and I went out with a family friend of ours, and she had just gotten married a couple of months earlier. And we had never asked her how she got to know her husband and how she found him, because mashallah, he's a really great guy. So subhanAllah, we opened the topic. So how did you find your husband? And she's like, actually, I met him on Muzz. I was like, Muzz? What's Muzz? I didn't even know what Muzz is, to be honest. And she told me about Muzz, and she told me how she went on there and her mindset, that she looked at this like a project. And she really encouraged me to look into downloading Muzz, because previously I've heard of marriage apps, but I was scared. Like, how are they even halal? How do you know if someone's real? What if they're just playing with you? It's through the internet. So how do you know if this person's actually real or making it up? So I had all of these fears around marriage apps, but just hearing her success story made me so curious and made me so excited to try it. And so subhanAllah, after we had finished breakfast, my best friend was sitting next to me. She's like, Hannah, download it. I'm like, you know what? Yes, bismillah, let's go ahead and download it. So I went ahead and downloaded Muzz. And then the first thing that he asks you for is profile pictures and a bio. I was like, oh my God, where do I even start? What do I even write? I remember feeling that way. And in episode 2, I teach you all about what to write, what photos to use in order to appear the high value woman that you are. I teach you all those tips and tricks. So stay tuned for episode 2, inshallah. So I downloaded the app, and this is the most important thing, and I'll speak about it in episode 2. It's the mindset that I came into the app with. I downloaded Muzz, and I really loved using Muzz because of the interface. The interface was so friendly, it was so beautiful, it was so easy to swipe, and I loved all the features that they had at the time, where you could verify your profile, you can pay for a subscription in order to boost your profile. I really loved all of those features of Muzz compared to other marriage apps, and so that's why I downloaded it, and I loved using it. And as I was swiping, I knew how to swipe, and that's the difference. I knew the strategy behind swiping. I knew the psychology behind swiping. I knew who was a great match and who wasn't a great match. I knew how to unmatch someone that wasn't a match for me. I knew how to ask really great questions that was values aligned with me. And so I didn't need to spend months and months and months on end to find my husband. I only needed 1 month, alhamdulillah. And again, this is not luck or magic or whatever it is. It was because I had strategy behind it. I knew exactly what I was looking for and how to swipe strategically. And so alhamdulillah, I matched with my husband Ammar. We got to know each other. We got married, alhamdulillah. And the most beautiful thing was, on our wedding day, I never told my husband what our duaa was. And so when we came back from our wedding day lunch, he came up to me and he hugged me and he whispered in my ear, I love you, Hannah. And I remember crying in that moment, because I'm like, Ya Allah, you've gifted me this beautiful gift of my duaa in the most beautiful way, in a way that I could never imagine it. And it's so much more beautiful than I could have ever imagined. I was so grateful to Allah in that moment. I gave my husband the grey jumper, and subhanallah, it fit him perfectly. He was amazed. He was like, oh my God, Hannah, it's like it fits me perfectly. And he was amazed by my story, amazed at how much action that I took and how much yaqeen I had in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so that is my story. Tune in for next week's episode, where I teach you the psychology of how to swipe and how to elevate your profile so that inshallah you can attract a high value potential.